Hi everyone, welcome to Megan's Creative Arts. I'm back again to show you a couple new stitches with crochet. As you can see, I'm using the Big Twist from Joann Fabrics. You can, they suggest using an H hook or 5 millimeters, whichever is your preference. It even gives you some information on how many skeins of yarn it takes to make a blanket, a sweater, a hat, and a scarf. So that's always nice. Alright, so today I'm going to teach you how to do the double crochet. So a lot of people end up using this for a lot of different projects. I do mostly blankets, but I also do some sweaters, hats, and scarves, whatever anyone really wants. I've also done a couple of bags for my daughter. She likes me to crochet her little purses. So we're going to start off by doing our little stitch here so we can start out. I'm just going to grab a loop, wrap it around my finger. I'm only going to go through one of the yarns. And there we go, there's our little slip stitch. And that's how we start. And then we can make it looser or pull it a little tighter. So for this demonstration, I'm just going to do a small sample. I'm going to do 20 chains. And if you saw in my last video how to do chains, you can follow that. Or right here, it's real simple. You just yarn over and pull through the loop. After you do a few, then you have to work your way back up to the top here and do a few more. Now this is something I like to do while I'm watching TV in the evenings, so I usually don't sit here at a table and do this, but for these demonstrations, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I relax in my evenings, is I sit and crochet sometimes. And depending on what's going on, my daughter actually allows me to do it for up to an hour. Usually with only about 5 interruptions. Alright, so when we're starting from a chain, we need to use the third chain from the hook. So here's our hook. We're going to count 1, 2, 3. I'm going to yarn over and go in the 4th chain from the hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop, so now I have 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and only go through 2, and then I'm going to yarn over and go through the next 2. Now these first 3 chains that we kind of skipped, it will count as a double crochet in pretty much every book or pattern that you end up doing in the future. This does count as a stitch. So I'm going to yarn over, go through the stitch I need to go through, yarn over again and pull up a loop. So again, I have 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over again and go through the last 2. And that is your double crochet. So again, yarn over, put your hook through the stitch you need to put it in, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and go through 2 loops, yarn over and go through the last 2. go again, we're yarning over, going through your stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. We're going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over and pull through the last 2. So technically we have 5 stitches because these first 3 chains count as 1, and then we actually created 4 more. So I'm just going to go to the very end and keep going. And I want you to practice this because it does take some practice. When I first started, I would make it too tight. And then if you're not consistent with your stitches, you'll get a weird looking wave pattern. So let me do one that's a little too tight to try to show you, and I have a harder time getting this through. And you can also, when you make it too tight, not allow the hook to go through properly and you'll snag. Can't really tell, but it is dipping because those are a little tight in my stitches, so I'm just going to undo them. But we're going to yarn over, go into our stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. Now we have 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over and go through the last 2. We're going to work our way all the way to the end. When you've been doing it for 30 plus years like me, you can go rather quickly, and if I'm doing this while watching TV, I usually don't even need to look where most of my stitches are going. I can do it by feel, depending on the pattern I'm doing. But this is just learning the basics. So I want you to go all the way to the end of however many chains you decided to do. I wasn't counting, so I did a few more than I probably needed to for this little sample. But this double crochet is most widely used in making blankets and scarves and hats and a lot of different projects. So this is one of the best stitches to learn. Here we go, we're at the end. If you're having trouble getting your yarn to come through your 2 loops, just wiggle it a little, because it might be snagging on one of the bits of yarn. So here we are at the end. Here's your little tail. And to turn, when you're doing a double crochet, you're actually going to chain 3. This will count as a stitch. You will turn, and because this counts as a stitch, this is over this one right here. So I'm going to yarn over and go through the second one. So you see how we skip this one, we're going through the second one. Yarn over, pull up your loops, yarn over and go through 2, yarn over and go through 2 again. Now it does look a little weird at the end only because we haven't made it to the other end again. So we're going to go all the way to the end. once you get these basics down, then you can start doing fancy little things. Like you can only go through the back loops. So if I only wanted to do a back loop, I would see how there are 2 loops here that make up my previous stitch on the bottom row. I would only go through this back one. And that will make, it's hard to see here, but that'll make your stitch look further back. And you can do the whole row this way, or I can just go through the front loop and do the same stitch, and it'll look a little closer. So this is how you can get a little fancy. So I'm just going through the back loop and then the front loop. And it's easier to tell once you get a couple of rows going like this. But you can kind of see how they're going a little further away and a little closer to you. So that's how you can get some a little bit fancy on some of your rows if you're doing just a sample, or if you're going to be doing a blanket. I always started doing blankets, and I still love doing them. So I'm going to go all the way to the end. I'm not going to continue to do the back and forth, but it's certainly something you can do. For this sample, I'm just doing this today. Or you could do all back loops or all front loops. When you do like all back loops and you turn and continue to do all back loops, then it looks like it's kind of go, some rows are coming towards you, some rows are further back, and it makes a cute little design on it. And you're not really doing anything different. You're only going through the back loops. You can see I almost missed part of the yarn there. That would have made it look just a little bit weird. Most people probably wouldn't have noticed. Okay, and we are at the end. Here's the last stitch I made, and then these are the first 3 chains that we had done on that bottom row. So I'm going to go through, if you can see it, here's 1 and 2. So I'm going to go through that chain, pull up my yarn, and do that double crochet again. So you can see how this will start to line up as you keep going. So we're just going to chain 3, turn. Again, we're going to skip this first stitch because these 3 chains will count as our first double crochet. And we're just going to work our way across. And as you practice and get more comfortable doing that, you can do what's called a front post, where I go around the actual front post, going around like this through my last double crochet on the bottom row and crochet around it. That's called a front post. double crochet. Same thing with a back post. I go behind it. It's hard to see. So I yarn over, go behind that loop, or I'm sorry, behind that double crochet, pull up, yarn over and pull up a loop through there. This one's a little harder. So there's my 3. Here we go. You can see now there's my 3 loops. I yarn over and go through 2, yarn over and go through 2. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go through and do a front post double crochet where I go around the front of the double crochet on the bottom row, and then do a back post double crochet, yarn over, there we go. And you can see as we keep going that this makes a nice little pattern. You don't have to get fancy and do this. This is just a couple things that you can do to spice up your design. But you keep going like this. So we just did the back post, so I'm going to do a front post. And then another back post. And all I'm doing, instead of going into the holes of my next stitch, I'm actually going around the entire stitch. And still doing that double crochet pattern. The back one's a little more difficult only because I tend to get caught when I'm trying to pull through the yarn. So you can see how this goes. Again, you don't have to do some of this, but I wanted to teach you a couple different stitches that you can do with the double crochet. When I do these front posts and back posts, I usually do it on like a hat or sweater, and it makes a nice design. Don't usually do it on blankets unless that's the style I'm looking for. And this looks a little funky, so I'm actually just going to take it out and see what I did because I wasn't paying attention. There we go. So if you ever mess up, all you have to do is pull. You can redo it. So now that you've learned a couple more stitches, we learned the double crochet, a couple different designs you could do by just using the back loop or just the front loop, and you could do the front post by going around or the back post by going through the back. And now you're on your way to learning crochet. So if you enjoyed this and would like to see more, please like and subscribe. and I will see you in my next video. Thank you.